The Oklahoma City Thunder gave away game one to the Denver Nuggets, and now things get dicey. We'll talk about it all on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, me member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder, just choking game one down the stretch to the Denver Nuggets. A lot went wrong in the final seconds of this game. Is this cause for concern? Where does this series stand now that Denver has captured an improbable 1-0 series lead? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. But clearly, you're going to have 2 days to stew on this, right? This is Tuesday's episode, Wednesday's episode before game two. We'll really dive into the nooks and crannies of adjustments. But the biggest story from this game is the Thunder just giving game one away. And we've talked about game one for 4 days now of how important it is and how must win it is for the Thunder, who coming into tonight, they were 3-0 in game ones. And you look at the statistics of teams in Denver's spot that have went to a game seven the round before and then travel to a game one the next round with less than 3 days of rest. And those teams are now 5-19 in those scenarios since 2003. Before tonight, of course, they were 4-19 in those chances. It's not been a recipe for success throughout the course of NBA history. It shouldn't have been a recipe for success when you face off with the number one team in basketball that won 68 games, that had all of the advantages. When you break down the advantages OKC had, they had the rest advantage. They had the depth advantage on top of the rest advantage. They have a better roster. They have a coach of the year versus an interim coach. And the one thing they didn't have cost them. They do not have championship level experience. That was an inexperienced team on the floor in OKC. It just was. That was a team who couldn't handle what the playoffs bring in more ways than just the final 15 seconds. Obviously, we'll start backward and recount this game. The Thunder start their foul up three strategy. This is a strategy that I don't think you should take a hindsight approach to. Me personally, I've always been a fan of fouling up three. So therefore, I will not kill the Thunder for the act of fouling up three. The Thunder took accountability post-game from Mark to Alex Caruso, who committed the fouls, that they fouled too early. They went to the strategy too early. And specifically, Caruso's foul against Gordon. That cannot happen. It just can't. I know what you're taught. I know what the strategy is. And I know that Mark takes complete ownership of that. But as Caruso said, he's going to beat himself up tonight for doing that because Jokic is off the floor. The Nuggets don't have a timeout to get him back in the game. And you foul Aaron Gordon 90 feet from the basket when the Nuggets have no timeouts. They're down three. And there's 12.9 seconds left. That's inexcusable. Because you compound the problem by the fact that Gordon, he's an 81% free throw shooter. So it's a bad idea to foul early anyway. But if you do foul early, you would imagine it's because they got the ball to the guy you wanted at the free throw line. It's not who you wanted at the free throw line if you're Oklahoma City. It's just not. So I think that when you look at this end of game management, it could have been better countless ways. Chet Holmgren has to make those free throws. But even then, the Thunder in general have to make their free throws. Chet misses those two. Jada misses two earlier. Shai misses a couple free throws. The Thunder shot 71% at the free throw line. Denver shot 81%. It's a big difference. It's a big difference in a game this tight. And a game that was practically won at the buzzer. But even down to the strategies of The timeout usage by Oklahoma City, I didn't love. Because nothing about Mark Daigneault has been conventional to this point of his coaching career. And I get the comfortable thing to do is to call the timeout and advance the ball. I totally get that. And it worked to perfection with what you were able to draw up for Shai to get the opportunity to have Jokic on the bench with no timeouts and no way to get him in unless you foul. But to call after that happens, to call the timeout to advance the ball the second time where Chet misses the free throws, one, it leaves you with no timeouts remaining to advance the ball if what happened happens. Two, I think it makes it a tougher inbound. You saw how they barely were able to get it in to Chet before a 5-second call. And again, three, you just don't have that in your back pocket. Whereas if you have to go the length of the floor and you have the length of the floor to use, if you did draw something up that let Caruso throw an outlet pass to a streaking player down the court, that gives you even more runway to burn more clock off of the timer. And again, the easier inbound pass likely gets to a better free throw shooter. But Chet, I think understandably, will be beat up today. He also hit brilliant free throws against Memphis to ice that series. So it's like, it's just all bad. Everything's bad about the final seconds of this game. And what's even worse is that you couldn't put them away. We talk about the disadvantages that Denver has. They got down 14 in this game in the Paycom Center with all those disadvantages that we laid out on the front end, and you let them chip away. The most painful thing for the Thunder's perspective about this would be that they were the better team. The Denver Nuggets were at the ends of the second quarter, at the end of the third quarter, at the end of the fourth quarter. They closed those 3 quarters worlds better than you did. And it just chipped away. At the end of the second quarter, it sliced the lead down, and you still felt good. You still felt comfortable. You're up by 10. Into the third quarter, it slices it down to 5, right? And then fourth quarter comes. After you grew that lead back to 10, they sliced it the whole way to in the fourth quarter. The Thunder did not start the game strong. They had a poor start to the first quarter, and they didn't close any quarter well. And they lost the game because of it. And this is why I thought it was ludicrous to pick the Thunder in short order. I picked the Thunder in 7. I'll stick by that prediction because for the Thunder to win in 7, they'd have to lose 3 times. So they still have to go through 2 more losses to get to that prediction to be correct. But this certainly opens the door for Denver, as we said on the crossover show. If Denver could steal game 1 with all these disadvantages, it opens the door for them completely. And it did. And it cost them. And again, the foul stuff, you can be as kind of aggressive about it as you want to. The simple fact is, it's spilled milk at this point. It was silly to foul that early up 3. It just was. It was a terrible decision by Caruso to foul AG. But besides saying it was terrible, there's no way to fix it. They can't fix it until the next game. So that's not even to me the big concern. Does it suck to see the Thunder just waste away a game? Absolutely. But the way of which they wasted it away, I think, happened through the course of the first 40 minutes versus what you saw at the end of the game in the 48th minute. There was a lot of things to be concerned about that isn't the mishaps of the fouling up 3, which is where Denver should feel pretty confident coming out of game 1, having stolen home court advantage away from Oklahoma City. Because this team throughout the night looked like a young team, looked like a team who felt the bright lights of this stage, and it's only going to get tougher. The lights will only get brighter. The pressure only mounts. The pressure that this team will feel heading into game 2 is something they haven't felt before. Because they won game 1 against Dallas last year. They got off to a 1-0 start. And in a lot of ways, last year was like a house money year where you weren't expected to be here. This year's different, and the pressure's different, and the environment's different. And how they respond to this game, just like SGA said post-game, will determine what they're made of. Will determine who they are. Are they the 68-win team? Or are they more closer to last year's Dallas performance? I think that there was good and bad in all of this. Look, you can't get to a game in the postseason and only lose by a couple points and it be a completely terrible game from start to finish. And for Denver, They have things to clean up, even though that they won. Just like had that Aaron Gordon 3 not fallen, the Thunder would have technically won the game, would have had a lot of these same concerns. And we're going to get into some of those concerns coming up. But it was just important to talk about the biggest story, which was the end of the game. To recap, fouling up 3, I think, is a great decision. The timing of when to foul up 3 was porous. It was very, very poor of when to foul up 3. Coming up, what long-term concerns should OKC have? But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because the NBA playoffs are in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot by Aaron Gordon or a breakout player, there's never a better time than now to join in on the action at FanDuel, who makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with a player prop, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to get in on the action and win big. Go check it out today. You saw the Thunder tonight, 9.5-point favorites. Clearly they lost. It did not hit. So if you were on Denver, congratulations. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your $5 bet. It's your first one. If you win it, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day here talking Thunder basketball. We'll probably have 3 pods about this one game. I mean, with how the direction of the show is going, 10 minutes over 15 seconds, we'll have to break this into bonus pods should you want that. Now, when you look at the whole body of work, you take a step back and evaluate the whole 48 minutes because a lot of people will get stuck on that 15 seconds. And in a vacuum, that 15 seconds did lose them the game. But there was plenty of things that lost them the game before that. We mentioned the free throws and how the Thunder shot 71% at the free throw line, 81% from Denver. That can't happen. And it can't happen from your top guys because you look at who went to the free throw line. It was Chet 4 times. It was J-Dub 6 times. It was Shai 9 times. Aside from them, Caruso split a pair. J. Will split a pair. Everybody else, perfect. So it comes down to your 3 guys. Shai cannot shoot 77%. J-Dub cannot shoot 66%. Chet cannot shoot 50% at the free throw line. They're free points. You can't afford to squander them. You can't afford to give them away. You just can't. And this is kind of where you get into the unexplainable, right? Not inexcusable, unexplainable. Because why? Why have they missed these free throws? These guys have typically shot way better from the free throw line. It goes back to the 3-pointers. It seems silly to cast it off as an experience, but why did this team start 0 for 10 from 3? Why have they not shot well through 5 playoff games? That's where it leads to the inexperience factor playing a big part. And all season long, you've been throwing tomatoes at me for talking about how this team is young, for talking about how they're putting a lot of pressure on J-Dub and Chet in their second ever playoff run to be number 2 and 3 scoring options, and they might not be ready all season long. That was silly. It's a championship or bust year. The expectation level should be a championship. Look where you're at. Look where you're at right now. The experience does matter. It does. With that point being said, this was your first real test. Again, didn't shoot the ball well against Memphis. The Memphis series, much like the Pelican series, doesn't matter. You have 2 series of work that matters. You have 6 games against Dallas. You have this game so far against Denver. They're over so far of big performances on big spots. But that could all change Wednesday. So it's the same things you were monitoring heading into game 1, you're monitoring tonight. You're monitoring in game 2 and et cetera. But again, the free throw thing killed them. The last 15 seconds debacle killed them. But also the rebounding killed them. 72-53, Denver won this game with second chance points and by making up the possession battle with rebounds. Because you turned Denver over 18 times. The Thunder feasted on turnover points off turnovers. But when you just hand them 72 rebounds, it doesn't matter. It's a wash. So then you lean back on, you shot 71% from the free throw line. You shot 34% from the 3-point line. You were beating points in the paint. You were beating second chance points. And for all the turnovers, fast break points is +6 for OKC. It's just not good enough. That's for sure. And I asked Jalen Williams about the rebounds after the game, and he did his best Torian Prince impression of, you go up and grab the ball. That's a rebound. We get it. And the reason I asked him, and it's not personal, that he wanted to go the route of taking it as a bit. The reason I asked him is, if I'm going to come on here and kill them for not getting on the glass, they should have their fair opportunity to talk about why they didn't do it. And yeah, J-Dub said it. Listen, they didn't put bodies on guys. They didn't box out. They were watching too many rebounds fly by, like they're a little kid at the airport watching a plane fly overhead. Like they have to be better. This is not what championship level teams do. It's just not. And everybody knows it, including in that locker room. And I think it's fascinating to see how they're going to respond. But you saw the inexperience of OKC catch up to them in this game in more ways than one. The late game debacle and the rebounding, I think, can also lead us to the Thunder were not the more physical team. The Thunder were not more physical. The Thunder did not outwork. The Thunder did not out hustle. The Thunder did not out effort. The Thunder did not out athlete the Denver Nuggets. Those have been the hallmarks of this Thunder team. Those have been the backbone of 68 wins. They didn't do any of them tonight. AG first to the floor in a pivotal spot in the fourth quarter to get on the loose ball, call a timeout, and retain possession. That exact play in the fourth quarter from Aaron Gordon is the exact play that won the Thunder the Memphis series. And those are the type of breaks that went for OKC against Memphis that didn't go for OKC in this game, and they're all self-generated. And then, when you're going down the laundry list of reasons why this Thunder team did not win, we talked about the Caruso foul, we talked about the Mark strategy, we talked about the free throw shooting, the three-point shooting is a huge deal. The next time that this Thunder team puts together a good three-point shooting game in the playoffs in a meaningful moment will be the first time. They didn't even do it in the first round against Memphis. So we've covered the three-point shooting. I said it throughout the preview shows. We can talk about shot variance all we want to. For 3 quarters, the Thunder generated open threes. They generated great threes. And the only guys who could hit them, Dort and Caruso. Eventually, the variance has to swing their way. And I think that it will. I think that there's a reason to play 7 of these. There's a reason why we don't see very many upsets in the NBA. True upsets. Because even the Warriors beating Houston, right? Like, that's an upset by seeding. We picked the Warriors to win that series. A lot of people picked the Warriors to win that series. There was a clear, strange seeding part there, right? Clearly some other things at work there. But I think that this will level out for the Thunder. That's why I'm sticking with the Thunder in 7 prediction, because they always said to lose games. But if they do not win, it'll be because of tonight. Not only because it's one of the 4 wins Denver needs, but because Denver got a win without any of the paths to victory that we were talking about. Jamal Murray wasn't insane in this game. I'm not saying Jamal Murray was bad, but he had 21 points on 37% shooting. Like, that's not the Jamal Murray game that you know was coming around the corner. Denver didn't have a lights out shooting night. They shot worse than the Thunder did. They made 15 less threes, and they shot a worse percentage doing so. I'm sorry, they made 5 less threes, and they shot a worse percentage doing so. They turned the ball over 18 times. If you would have laid out these stats ahead of game 1, you would have said, okay, this game went the way we thought. Denver doesn't have the gas. Denver gets blown out in game 1. Let's see what happens in game 2, because this was always going to be an unfair disadvantage to Denver because they didn't do their job of winning that Clippers series earlier. But instead, we're talking about a Denver win. And these are the difference. These are the margins that end up deciding series. So the Thunder now have to make up ground. The Thunder are now behind the 8 ball. And that's what happens when you lose game 1. Is it impossible to do so? Absolutely not. Look at last series that the Thunder played in round 2. They beat Dallas in game 1 in convincing fashion. They lose the series in 6. They win game 1 and they have home court advantage. They don't even get it to a 7th game. And a lot of people will be very emotional about this Thunder series because you guys are Thunder fans listening to this. Look around the NBA. Are you changing your Celtics Knicks prediction? Are you changing your Cleveland Indiana prediction? Of course, Cleveland has a different underlying definition because of the injuries. But look at that Boston game. You think that Locked On Celtics is pretty happy right now? They blow a 20-point lead at home to New York. That's a similar type of vibe, right? Celtics are a better, deeper team. They have home court advantage. The Knicks play a short rotation, but it's a quality rotation. I don't think that the Celtics are losing that series. So you take the emotions out of it. It's very hard to do for an audience that's either Nuggets fans here to brag or Thunder fans listening to this. But as a non-emotional party in this, it's not going to change all that much, but there is cause for concern for both sides, right? Because when we talk about the Thunder adjusting to, Denver has to clean some things up themselves. And we'll talk about that coming up of what can change, what is concerning for both sides, and what we think is coming up next in this series. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Denver deserves all the credit for winning this game. I mean, it's going to be a lot of talking points about how the Thunder lost this game. But I think that's a disservice to Denver, who just refused to quit, who refused to go away, who was resilient even when everybody was telling them not to be resilient, right? Like the only conversations about game one leading into this was, yeah, Denver really got jobbed with the scheduling. I mean, hopefully they just don't get beat by 50 and we'll try again in game two. Even before the game, David Alman was talking about how, no, it's always rest being the advantage. Whenever he was asked about rest versus rust, it's always rest being the advantage. Rest always wins. That's what he was saying pregame. So to win this game and to do it after you got down by 14 is an insanely big win for Denver. It's a great feather in their cap, and it could end up deciding the series. And Denver themselves has to be looking at this game and saying, well, if you didn't turn the ball over 18 times, if Jamal Murray doesn't shoot 37% from the floor, if the team didn't shoot 31% from three, this is a huge win for us. We can get even better. This is a blowout win for us. Just as the Thunder are saying, well, if you didn't shoot 35% from three, and you especially didn't shoot 71% from the free throw line, and you especially didn't get out rebounded to the degree that you did, and you had a better performance from Chet and from J-Dub, and you had Isaiah Joe not go over 4, then it's a game that you win in dominating fashion. So both sides believe coming out of this that there are simple fixes to the problems. And I can't reiterate enough that if the Gordon 3 does not fall, if the Gordon 3 at the buzzer does not fall, then the tone and tenor from Thunder fans is completely different. And the tone and tenor from Denver fans is completely different. But it was a perfectly executed play down the stretch of this game by veterans, Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon. Russell Westbrook brings the ball up off of the transition opportunity from the missed Chet free throw. Brings the ball up, old Russ, vintage Russ, worse off Russ, inexperienced Russ, even inexperienced in the sense of like 5 games ago, would have tried to barrel his way to the rim, would have tried to be the hero in the Paycom Center in the house that he built, put the exclamation point on this upset win himself, and tried to do it all on his own. Now he does what he wants on his way to the rim. But veteran Russ, off the bench Russ, smart decision Russ, trying to win a championship Russ, he dribbles and penetrates his way toward the rim, gets Chet to play the gap, then fires it over to AG perfectly with perfect accuracy and also timing. With once he saw Chet try to gear up to stop the rush drive, then he kicked it out, and Chet still got out there enough to consider a contest, but it was a clean look, as clean of a look as you can get from Aaron Gordon. And that's an executed play that was both Gordon running the floor properly and being positioned properly, and Russ making the right decision. That's what you do in those moments. You rebound and you make good decisions. And the Thunder did none of it tonight down the stretch. So complete credit to Denver for not only hanging around, but executing better than OKC. From the Thunder standpoint, just like Denver has some things to clean up, so do you. Jalen Williams was not good enough. He just wasn't. 16 points on 25% shooting from your second option. And the thing with J-Dub is, I thought he was better without Shai on the floor. Because when we were having the conversations of what the secondary option looks like for J-Dub, and it's about not sinking when Shai's off the floor and staying afloat or extending your lead, the Thunder did that. I mean, the Thunder did that. You look at Shai's rotation. He plays the whole first quarter, plays the whole third quarter, plays half of the second and fourth quarters. What did the bar graph do, the line graph do? When Shai went to the bench, it went the Thunder's direction. J-Dub pushes it out to a 10-point lead, a 9-point lead in the +9 in the second quarter without Shai on the floor, and then Shai leaves the game in the fourth quarter to the tune of a 5-point lead for the Thunder. He returns to the game with a 10-point lead in hand. So from that aspect of it, I thought that it was encouraging to see Jalen Williams control the offense as a table setter, as both a scorer. The step back three against Jamal Murray was completely different than anything you've seen him hit in his career to date in big games. His weaving through traffic to get to the rim was worlds, leaps, and bounds better than it was in that Dallas series whenever he was the only guy on the floor. But it was whenever they doubled the ball at Shai's hands and Shai was on the floor with him that he played awful. The whole team did, frankly, whenever Shai was on the floor, because it felt like an offense that had caught a rhythm without Shai on the floor. Once Shai returned and he kicked the ball to them, they wouldn't know what to do. They were just standing around. They had bad spacing with Shai in the game. That's not a Shai problem. That's his teammates' problem that have to step up around him, that have to help him out and have to manufacture better looks whenever Denver is playing on a string and it is gapping hard and is getting the ball out of Shai's hands. And Denver did a really good job defending Shai. A really good job, especially considering some of their rotational shortcomings that we talked about over the last 3 days. But when you look at this game, it'll go down as one that you just didn't get enough from your co-stars. The Thunder are betting on J-Dub and Chet to be ready for this moment in their second ever playoff. They're going to have to step up. They have to be better. I think that with Chet, we talked about the positive from J-Dub and why I think that he played better than he did it in the Dallas series, because he played better on his own. And now you would, in theory, say, well, if your big concern is how he played next to Shai with Shai's gravity, then that kind of leads you to believe that this was kind of an outlier, because it should, in theory, be easier to play next to Shai than it is to play by yourself. So like with J-Dub, I'm still in a wait and see area. I'm not going to throw him out and just say, well, through now 7 second-round playoff games in his career, he's done, because he did so good on his own. That I want to see him over the course of this series, because I think that what he needs to achieve now in game 2 and game 3 and game 4 and game 5, game 6, game 7, what he needs to achieve now moving forward is an easy integration into what he's performed with so far. With Chet Holmgren, the positive with him is he's just so much better as the lone big on the floor. The offense runs smoother. He runs smoother. The team generates better shots. And I think that the Thunder need to switch to just playing one big and starting one big. And it works twofold. It's not to say that the double big lineups is bad. They were bad tonight, but they haven't been bad in general. But number one, when you play Jokic, you're going to get in foul trouble in the front court. You just are. Call it whatever you want to. It's just Jokic is a problem, man. Shai's a problem. These guys who are incredibly tough to guard, they get fouled a lot because they put you in positions to be incredibly tough to guard. So it's like Chet has 5 fouls. Ihart has 5 fouls. You can't afford to give up fouls when they're both on the court, because you can see where like Chet commits a foul, then in 3 possessions, Ihart commits a foul. And it's like in the span of 3 possessions, you've gotten 2 fouls, one on each of your best defensive options. And you saw they started the second half. They start the second half by extending their lead out of intermission and growing their biggest lead of the night whenever they've been playing primarily single big in the second half. They start the game with 2 bigs. They close the game with 2 bigs. It was their worst portions of the game. And I think that there's a reason for that. One, because your rotation can be staggered easier when you only start one big with your front court rotation. I think that the foul trouble thing is big. But I also think that where the Thunder found success was with one big on Jokic. The Thunder collapse around him when he touches the ball, and then they fly back out to contest threes. Because unlike OKC, like OKC generated good threes, And the Nuggets funneled threes to shooters who haven't proven themselves and let them shoot, and they just did not cash in. Denver missed threes that were very well contested because of how disciplined and how good the Thunder were at flying back out after collapsing on Jokic. That strategy is one that the Thunder want to play against Jokic very clearly. That strategy is much easier to pull off with only one big on the floor. Because instead of having Chet/Ihart try to spray out, you're having Cason Wallace/Alex Caruso try to fly out and contest shots and play the passing lanes and create those turnovers and create havoc. So I think that any way you slice it, you're going to end up at the end of this, at the series, being better with just one big on the floor at a time. And with that, I think breeds a better Chet game. Lou Dort finishes 4 for 4 from three on his last four 3-point attempts, but he ends up 4 for 9 in total. And so he saves the game there for himself in the sense of the bottom stat line. It's a funky way to get there. It really is. But 4 threes from Lou, you have to take that considering what he's able to do on the defensive end. You just can't have the dry spells. I mean, he had a 0 for 12 streak cooking dating back to last series. You just can't have that from Lou from this point forward. But credit to him, man, for staying in this game emotionally, staying in this game competitively, and not letting those misses that stacked up to start the night, not letting that cause him to be hesitant, not letting that cause him to overthink things, or else you wouldn't have gotten the 4 made threes that you got. When you made 15 threes in this game, 4 came from Lou Dort, 5 came from Alex Caruso. Then you got 2 of 9 from J-Dub, and you got 2 of 6 from Shai. And then you tossed in another 1 from J. Will and another 1 from Wiggins. It's just not good enough from 3. And that's why through the preview shows, we talked about how at the end of this series, whoever wins will likely have won the 3-point battle. The Thunder did win the 3-point percentage battle tonight, and they made more of them. It just was not good enough for where they needed to be at the end of the night. And these things stack up. I mean, again, we put a lot of pressure in the last 15 seconds. If any of those guys shoot the ball better from 3, this is a whole new ball game. If Jada doesn't miss those 2 free throws at the start of the game, which now kind of get wiped under the rug because Chet missed 2 at the end, like this is a whole new ball game. If Shai doesn't miss 2 free throws, like all these possessions matter. That's why you play 48 minutes. So this is a Thunder team that has to respond. And this was an opportunity. This was an opportunity for them to not only make a statement in this series, not only start on the right foot of 1-0, not only protect home court, but this was an opportunity for these question marks like J-Dub, like their supporting cast from Beyond the Arc, to answer questions. And now those questions just get louder. Those questions just grow. The pressure just mounts. Because Denver's already done their job. Look, as an underseeded team, the underdog in the series and the not having home court, all you need to do is split the first 2. You've stolen home court advantage. That's all you need to do, go back home and regroup. So Denver's done their job. They can play as free and loose as they want to in game 2. OKC cannot afford to go down 0-2 in this series. They just can't. So this is an inexperienced team. This is a young team. This is an unproven team that now faces an immense amount of pressure. And how they respond to that will dictate who they are. Is this current team, the 24-25 team, are they a regular season juggernaut that weren't ready for the playoffs? Or are they who we think they are and they're true contenders? We're going to find out. We're going to find out through the course of this series. We're going to find out as soon as Wednesday and how they respond. But I still believe this is going to be a long series. And again, picking Thunder in 7, they always had to lose 3. No point of change. But obviously, anytime a series gets to a 7th game, it's a coin flip. It's a series in which that can be decided on a 1-game sample size. So we'll see how this series ends up faring. But things opened up in a big way for Denver. They really did now that they've won game 1. And they should have immense confidence in that locker room. You have an exhilarating, I think, cathartic Game 7 win after blowing a Game 7 a year ago. Then you come rob one in OKC that the Thunder gave to you, and rob one not in the sense of a slight to Denver, but we talked about all the history of the league that stacked against Denver in Game 1 of this series to still get that win in spite of that and to buck that trend. Like Denver, you can't feel better than this if you're Denver. And these are the type of things that can propel teams, that can elevate teams for a long playoff run and for success amidst this series. So that you cannot stress enough how important that Wednesday night will be inside the Paycom Center and how many question marks will be there for the Thunder inside the Paycom Center. But it's going to be fun to see how each team reacts. And I think that Thunder fans, honestly, were a bit spoiled by, the sweeping of Memphis and especially the way that the Memphis series went, where even though game 3 and 4 was close, like you started out with a 50-point win at home in game 1 and another lopsided win in game 2. You just kind of think that this is how it is. It's not how it is. This is what playoff series are. If you think the Thunder are good and you think the Thunder are gonna be good enough to win a championship, and you think that this team can navigate through this series, this is what you signed up for. Emotional highs and lows, massive swings game to game. At the end of the day, no matter how it came, it's one win of 4 that you need. The Thunder were in this position a year ago. They still lost the series, being up 1-0. Nothing's decided today. So I don't think that anything about your prediction, whether you pick the Thunder or pick Denver, should change based upon today in terms of what team will win the series. Everybody wants to be a soldier until the war's here. This is the war. This is the war. What are you going to do? Are you going to retreat? Are you going to run into it? How are you going to respond? It's going to be fun to watch this young team go through it for the second time and see what they've learned from their first go around. We'll have more on this game on the next podcast. And until then, be good and be good to one another.